You know what today is? NCAA tip-off is today. You guys, I'm sorry to tell you that we never, ever get a pick wrong in the NCAA tournament. It's been decades and decades that I've been making. Yeah, it's been decades that I've been making NCAA tournament brackets, and I never get them right. I mean, I've never missed a pick.
Right.
You know, I look at my bracket today, and I just fully realize how dominant I am as a prognosticator.
What is it like to have this level of responsibility, to get it right every time, and like
it's easy
to
for
never
me.
be wrong? And
It's easy for
so
me.
you don't feel any type of pressure or any type of
I don't feel a certain types of way. No.
Stay home.
This is my final four right here. I know it's off the reservation. I essentially went with all number ones or twos. I know that's crazy. You know, I think the NCAA tournament is amazing. This is my final four. Who do you have in the final four? Drop them, because I'll tell you the 8-9 matchups are where I'm terrified. Gonzaga, Georgia. I don't know what you say about Zona, Georgia.
Gonzaga.
I really want to pick Gonzaga here. I didn't. I picked Gonzaga. I took Georgia over Gonzaga. I guess that's an upset. If you go to the East, Mississippi State and Baylor, why should I believe in Baylor?
100%. Yeah. Everyone's trying to say that Baylor's going to have some big upset here. I don't know what people are watching that would allude to that.
We'll find out. I took Mississippi State. UConn, Oklahoma. I took Oklahoma. I don't think this is the same UConn team that we've seen historically. I feel like Oklahoma's had some good tests in the South. I should have taken Creighton. I erred in my ways.
To Louisville?
I did take Creighton. Excuse me. I took Creighton upset Louisville.
See? Perfect bracket here, bro. Telling you all the winners.
I took it. You know, the other game that I think I'm really worried about in the South is Michigan, UC San Diego. And I know there's a lot of Michigan representation on this show.
Yeah, that has upset written all over it.
I took Michigan, but I'm telling you, UC San Diego terrifies me. That's a 30-win basketball team, and if they had beaten anybody of note, I would have taken UC San Diego.
Right.
But they have not, so I did not. But you know, I look at the traditional upset spots. I don't have a lot of upsets in this bracket. I'll be honest with you. I don't see any 12s, 13s. I think Liberty's going to get blown up by Oregon because I think Oregon's probably better than anybody believes that they are.
Right.
Like Bryant's not beating Michigan State. Robert Morris isn't beating Alabama.
Oh, sad.
And as a quick side note, Jake rolled into the studio this morning and was like, screw Jalen Milroe.
You know.
Change positions.
Well,
we got to talk about that. Yeah, Corey, I don't have a 12 upset. I don't. And Colorado State was the one I was looking at. But if we start looking at the real opportunities, I could see the one that really you should be looking at is Grand Canyon versus Maryland.
Right.
Grand Canyon's a legitimately good team. Legitimately good. But other than that, like McNeese is not beating Clemson. Memphis is a really good basketball team. A really good basketball team. I'll admit, and I know that
Colorado's 1.5 in that game.
Colorado State
is minus 1.5 in that game.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. I don't know. I have no idea. I think I will probably not get a single game right in this bracket.
I think this year's bracket is definitely a bracket where there's not obvious upsets, but I still think we're going to get upsets, and it will be more dramatic than it's been in years past. I think, you look at like UNC Ole Miss, nobody's giving UNC, a great look in that game. Most people think that Ole Miss is gonna cover that and win that game, but yeah, you look around the bracket and there's not like a ton of obvious hey, this is got upset, just written.
Yeah, I don't
all
buy
over
it. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think it is going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out.
How many brackets are you guys doing? Because I know that there are people that do like 10 brackets every year.
This too.
And like, so do you guys just do one bracket? Do you do like 10 brackets? And for the people who do 10 brackets, on your 10th bracket, are you choosing all the losers to win games from your first bracket? Or like, what's the strategy here?
Stop. Oh, well, look at this bracket. This is my 78th bracket, all upsets, and I got one right.
Schemers trying to control their little world.
There's always that guy who will play like 50 brackets.
Yeah.
And then there'll always be that guy who will have like 5 right in the first round. Be like, oh man, you guys should see my bracket. Pure domination. Yeah, very pure domination.
Yeah, dude's got like 50 brackets and he just has one that happened to be right.
Oh, no.
He's like,
there's a lot of dudes in this country who don't fill out brackets and like, dude, I told you. What did I tell you about Ole Miss beating Carolina? I really,
if I'd have done a bracket.
I studied that, they have 13 quad 7 wins and only 4 quad 68 wins. You put that together and it spells Ole Miss beating North Carolina. That's how I did my formula.
Yeah, and I was talking to Bob in the old ops building, and he disagreed with me, but I told him, you better look at my bracket because I know.
These quad 7 wins really matter, and nobody believes me.
Yeah.
That's what always happens. That's the guy that you show up at work and you bring a shovel and you just shovel that guy right in the face.
Yeah, but I'm being serious. If you're rolling into the office today, like legitimately, if you're rolling into the office today, do you still print your bracket out and talk to your boys at the office about it? Is that still a thing?
I don't. But then again, do I really go into an office? I really don't.
No.
But I don't know. It's interesting. So really, I think there are no surprises in my bracket. I'll be honest with you. The games I really struggle with, all the 8-9s. I don't know why I believe in Baylor, but I think Baylor's going to run into Duke. I think Duke is the shakiest one in this bracket. The shakiest number 1 seed is Duke because of Cooper Flagg's injury. If Cooper Flagg is healthy, that's a really dominant team.
Yeah.
And if Cooper Flagg is going to have a bunch of tape and he's going to take the needle in the ankle, they're going to be in trouble.
That's HIPAA.
I think Arizona has every opportunity to make a long run. Akron and Oregon is not a world beater route to the Elite Eight.
Oh, and I think when you're looking at the bracket, it's teams like Arizona where we sit here and we say, hey, can the Big 12 have a good year? Like Arizona is a team that I would agree has a path that they can walk that really should allow them to win a couple of games here at a minimum. And it's Arizona, it's Baylor. Obviously everyone looks at Houston. It's this BYU VCU game, right? Everyone wants to tell you, oh, BYU.
You better take VCU.
Like I think you have to take VCU because BYU the only way that BYU really goes about winning ball games is if they shoot the 3 at a high rate.
Have to be lights out.
Yeah. And that's just a really volatile way to go about winning ball games. So that's why I say, like, I think that the Big 12 can get, 3-4 teams to win here in the first round, the round of 64 and move on. But I don't know. We'll see. I frankly, the Big 12 needs it to happen because it didn't happen last year. But again, I have to agree. I don't feel great picking Baylor to win a game. I don't love what Arizona has, but I think their path lends itself to winning 3 games. So it's like I think when you're watching the tournament today, you got to look at these games and say, man, like we know that Auburn and Florida and Alabama, like the SEC's got teams that will win 3-4 games here, but I don't know if that's the case with the Big 12.
No, I don't either. I think so. Here's really how I look at it. I think the more entertaining, the East is pretty interesting. I think VCU is going to beat BYU. I think St. Mary's Vanderbilt is a very interesting game. Everybody's got Vandy. I'm taking St. Mary's to win that game. I think St. Mary's loses to Alabama, so good luck to you. I think that's a very difficult quad in this bracket because you're going to have to go through Wisconsin or Alabama, and both those teams are very good. But my Sweet 16, Duke, Arizona, and Wisconsin, Alabama out of the East. In the Midwest, I think Houston is the best team in the tournament. That's the best team. Houston or Florida, one of the two, I think are the two best teams I've seen in this tournament. I think Houston beats Edwardsville. I think I'm taking Georgia to beat Gonzaga. And I think Houston's going to beat Georgia. I think that's a really interesting part of this bracket.
So where do you have Florida losing in their path here?
Final Four.
In the Final Four.
Final Four.
Okay.
I look at Florida coming out of the West. Florida gets Norfolk State. They win that game. I think they get Oklahoma, who I'm picking to beat UConn. I like Florida over Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think they run into Memphis in the Sweet 16 in what is going to be one of the games of this tournament if it happens. And I'm taking Florida to run into Texas Tech in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And I love Texas Tech's route, although how much value do you guys put on St. John? I think St. John's is a very interesting Obviously, Rick Pitino, who has sex with women in Italian restaurants, is a very interesting coach. He does. Check the lawsuit.
And with all due respect,
Yeah.
I think St. John's is a very interesting story.
I think that St. John's is a team that probably isn't as talented as Tech is, let's say, but because it's Pitino, and because it's his first first season there, second season there, and they're back in the tournament. I mean, clearly he's got them playing good basketball. So I worry about a Big 12 team playing the St. John's of the world when it's Pitino you're playing against, because he may be a degenerate and he may have made some really poor life decisions. But the guy can coach a basketball team. There's no question.
He is 50-17 in 2 years at St. John's, 29-11 in the Big East, and now obviously Big East champions. And his route's very interesting. If they can win their second round game. Okay, so let's project a little bit. Kansas or Arkansas? I think I'm probably going to take Kansas.
I mean, you have to.
I think Kansas. It's a very tough game to pick. Kansas, Arkansas, 7-10. Very easily, Arkansas could win that game. There's a lot of games in the tournament where you're like, dude, I could see it both ways.
Yes.
That doesn't happen for me because, again, I don't ever get picks wrong.
Right. It's perfect bracket.
Kansas, Arkansas. I'm taking Kansas, so that gives us Kansas and St. John's in round 2, and I'm taking St. John's to win that game. And I've got Texas Tech beating UNC Wilmington, Missouri, and then St. John. And I've got Florida and Texas Tech in the Elite Eight out of the West. And then we go to the South, which I think is one of the most difficult brackets to pick, because I've got Auburn, I've got Creighton beating Louisville, and I've got Auburn beating Creighton to go to the Sweet 16. That Michigan UC San Diego game, you have to take Michigan.
You have to, but
it's not
again,
a conversation.
It's another one. Like if I had a piece of paper in front of me looking at this bracket, and I've got my red highlighter, that's one of those games I'm highlighting is, hey, if my bracket busts on that game, I'm going to live with it. I mean, you have to take Michigan, but I would not put it past Michigan to choke in that matchup.
I would agree. I just, when I look at it and you start seeing what, I don't know, it's probably aggressive to, I don't know, when you look at the bracket, it's probably aggressive to say that UC San Diego is going to give them a run. But again, that's a 30-win team that hasn't beat anybody.
Yeah.
That makes me nervous. So I think I know I'm taking Michigan. I've got Michigan losing to Texas A&M in the second round, because the other thing about Texas A&M that I find so interesting is nobody's talking about Texas A&M. And I think we all agree Texas A&M's an afterthought in
all due respect
in the SEC, right?
Yes.
But if you start looking at the way that Texas A&M came down the stretch, they were terrible down the stretch. And they lost to, in order, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vandy, Florida, and then they beat Auburn, LSU, and lost to Texas. You don't know what you're getting out of Texas A&M on the regular.
Yep.
Right? So if they stay hot and if they're the team they were in the SEC tournament, I think they're going to beat Michigan. But it's no slight on Michigan, right? We were just buying cheeseburgers for hungry kids.
Yeah, dude. Middle of winter, you know, kids were starving. You know, we had to take care of people.
I don't think it matters. Auburn is the best team in that bracket.
100%.
When they're playing good football. So I've got Auburn. I've got Texas A&M beating Michigan, Auburn beating Texas A&M. And then my biggest question is I took a huge risk on Iowa State. Full disclosure. I took a huge risk on Iowa State. And I hope they are healthy, and I hope it pays off. Because I've got Iowa State beating Lipscomb, which was there was nothing to think about. I took Iowa State as an auto pick. I've got Iowa State becoming it's America's team.
America.
When they beat North Carolina.
Got to be America's team.
And I've got Iowa State losing to Auburn. So
I like that. Yeah, I think
Iowa State beats Michigan State and Iowa State loses to Auburn.
Yeah.
Michigan State's going to be very good. They're going to, if they get by Bryant.
Right.
They're going to beat Marquette, and then I think in one of the games of the tournament, they're going to lose to Iowa State. So,
see, again, that's another Big 12 matchup that the Big 12 really needs to win that ball game.
Yeah, I'm stoked about it. All right, let's see. RX says, "How about them Longhorns?" Well, they're not in the tournament, but thanks for telling us you don't know college basketball. Good riddance, Texas. Yeah, they lost. Texas is out. Will the Lady Huskies beat Columbia tonight? You know what? I was looking at that game. Never, and I don't care. Okay, let's move on. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, they're gonna win. They're gonna blow them out, dude. I mean, I would feel really good about. You mean the Connecticut Huskies?
F around and find out.
Oh, you mean the Connecticut Huskies? My bad. Yeah, no problem. Connecticut.
Yeah,
he
100%.
He does not mean UConn. I'm a jerk. D-Rock Irish, horns down. Alabama State for the Cinderella. Are you being serious, or are you just pulling one out? Because if they beat Auburn, that would be the greatest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament. If a number one goes down to a 16, that'd be the single greatest upset in the history of the tournament. Steely, I fill the bracket out after the games, and I look like Monty perfect bracket.
See, that's a great strategy, dude.
I think it's a phenomenal strategy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
You know.
Like, why are we not all doing that?
The problem is a lot of people do that. Stephen Smith, I filled out 5, but I filled out 2 on CBS and 3 on the NCAA March Madness bracket.
Excellent strategy, sir.
ESPN by far has the best bracket challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, UW fan Jim, on a good year, I will do well in the first round, but I think it was the late 80s since I did really well. Do you guys, so in high school, how do I put this gently? I may have collected funds at certain points based on who won and lost games.
Pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
In all sports. I may have,
Such as in like.
The single greatest year of my NCAA tournament, and I don't remember, I want to say it was 1989, the year Oklahoma won the NCAA tournament. I was in a huge pool, pool at I'm pretty sure it was Stevenson High School in good old Prairie View, Illinois.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody had, where's their final? Maybe I was wrong. I thought it was 89. Anyway, the year that they went to the final, and I'm just telling you that I dominated with Oklahoma that year. And it was amazeballs.
So back in your day, you were dominating people.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was fun. I just love it. I love everything about it. I took St. Mary's, probably not a bad pick. Patino and Carmela having relationships. Tony is going to be pissed.
Yeah, dude.
That's right, T.
If you guys don't know the Patino Italian restaurant story, Google search it. It will change your life.
No.
It will change your life. It really will. Pirate Mitch. Is this your first day here, Pirate Mitch? Upset of the day will be UNC Wilmington over Texas Tech. I bet it.
Well, since you bet it, I mean,
Bet it, he says.
Yeah.
Have 2 brackets filled out, one with Houston winning and one with St. John's winning.
This is what I'm talking about. This behavior right here, bro. Like, St. John's?
Okay, here's the route. If good old Italian restaurant impregnator wins the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Omaha. Probably Kansas. Probably Texas. They would have to beat Florida. I don't see any way.
Can you walk me through how you got St. Johnny's winning the tournament?
Seriously, let me ask you. How much weed did you smoke before you filled out St. John's winning the whole
wake and bake behavior, dude. Wake and bake behavior.
That would be an unbelievable run.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Right? That would be an unbelievable run if they did. I think the West is an absolute meat grinder.
I mean, are you did you do a bracket around St. John's because it's Patino and you just are so head over heels for Buddy?
And you like Italian sausage, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, Chewy. I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, you were wrong about the Dodgers. Cubs won both games in Japan.
Idiot.
We should probably move on. Steven Smith, what are your thoughts on Drake against listen, what Kendrick Lamar did to Drake should never happen to any other human in the world.
What's wrong with you?
I mean, look, and I appreciate that you're a Drake fan, and I'm fine with that. I don't judge you, at least not on the show. Like when the show's over, we're going to laugh at you.
Right, of course.
But
21, can you do something for me?
Drake probably is not beating Missouri.
Drake.
I, of course, took Missouri, who's going to lose to Texas Tech in the second round. But, stranger things could happen. What does Michigan basketball team have to do with the football team?
Here we go.
What do you mean? I never mentioned Michigan football. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we were just talking about cheeseburgers for suffering kids in the middle of winter, dude.
When kids are hungry, you got to buy them cheeseburgers. That's not... What does that have to do with Michigan?
Yeah, right?
I mean, you give them jobs as vacuum salesmen and you buy them cheeseburgers. That's just being a good human.
Right. Yeah.
Vacuums are my thing.
Yeah, biologics and stuff.
Right.
UNC to win today. How many people are rooting against North Carolina?
A lot.
How many? I think a lot.
Corey, a lot.
Corey, I'm not a fan of UNC being in, but I'll take a good villain story for a few rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, you will.
Exactly. Ricky Ravioli rolling through the tournament. Should I tell this? No, I'm not going to tell this. Rick Pitino allegedly raviolied a woman and then paid to unravioli that woman.
You just have to start stroking guys.
And it's pretty good sauce she got there, Ricky. Tyler Stout. I'd enjoy it a little more if the Mountain West Conference could get a few wins, not holding my breath, though. Well,
right.
Would have been nice if Boise would have been in the tournament.
But they're not because they got axed.
Utah State's going to make a run. They're going to beat UCLA, and then it's going to be over. Wow. They're going to lose to Tennessee because I think Tennessee is the only 10 I see in that game.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup.
Tennessee's very good.
I just don't think there's a lot of paths for Cinderellas this year, man. I think that
I'm sitting here looking for one.
Yeah,
Clemson makes me a little nervous. Clemson, McNeese, Clemson, Purdue. Purdue can beat Clemson. I took Clemson.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to get ended by Houston. So, I mean, I guess we'll see. I just don't see Colorado State making some. I don't think Colorado State beats Memphis. I think Memphis is a legitimate number 5. As much as people want to, overlook Memphis basketball, you shouldn't. They're really good.
Right.
They're really well coached. They're really well. I think Memphis is going to.
Yeah, they're prepared. They're prepared.
The one upset I can see if you're a Mountain West fan is Grand Canyon, who clearly is not in the Mountain West yet, but Grand Canyon, Maryland, is one that I could see that being an upset. I could see that happening. That to me would not be surprising. Mike Smith, how's West Virginia? Never mind. What makes March Madness the best is the upsets. Happens every year, even if in small amounts. Yes, it does happen every year. Norge Coog, I will root for North Carolina versus any SEC team. But will you root for VCU? That's the big question.
Right.
Am I the only one who thinks VCU's beaten North Carolina? Because I think I am. I think I am.
Yeah.
I am probably the only one. Stephen Smith, you guys need to get March Madness music on your sound effects board. Like One Shining Moment. I believe that's copyrighted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, Dan from Queens.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, let's go to Dan from Queens on line 6.
The deli on the corner, Dan?
Hey, Jerky, what do you want?
Yeah.
Drake is in the tournament. Lamar isn't. That's a good point. That's a good point.
And kick a person when he's down.
Drake is in the tournament, winning.
Drake is Drake.
Has anybody ever been beaten so badly as Drake was beaten by Kendrick Lamar?
I don't think so.
Honest to goodness, they should investigate that as a crime scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
domination,
unbelievable. Patino wins. Google him.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, you got to give him credit, right? I mean, he's a degenerate, but he is winning.
Maryland might not be a typical Cinderella, but would it be their first? Well, if they had, if they had Cade Cunningham. Did you see Cade Cunningham last night? Good night.
Stud.
Wasikowski, don't hang on to the Lions. Hang on to Cade Cunningham. Because that dude, I'm just telling you, what were they calling him on Sports
I'm trying
Center?
to remember.
Motorcade. Nobody calls him Motorcade.
Because, it's like the Motor City and it's Cade Cunningham.
Nobody.
So Motorcade.
Corey Hamill, Deli Dan and Ricky Ravioli.
Yeah, Deli Dan.
Oh, okay. Jason Bin, New Mexico over Marquette is real, but then a close loss to Michigan State. Okay, you know what? Jason? Here's a question I have. Is Michigan State a national championship caliber basketball club?